Hey, quiet on the set.
Combat base. Combat base is just a name I gave to this position as your combat base. And the reason why I'm named it that is just because it reminded me in the Marine Corps, you know, this is where I can shoot, this is where I can go guard, I can stand up. It's just a very good base. And for some reason, when I was instructing as a new black belt, I was up in Oregon at SBG, and I didn't have a name, and I named it a combat base. And the Curies in England liked that name, so they named the first school a combat base. And I just spray painted it on the wall. So I really never named it. Really, a combat base has no home base.
There was also big rivalries between, the Sambo guys, Go-Kor guys, the Judo guys, the Jiu-Jitsu guys, and the wrestlers. It was still very separate. Of course, there were some wrestlers cross-training in Jiu-Jitsu, some Judo guys cross-training in Jiu-Jitsu. The most famous ones probably being back then the Camarillo brothers, epic Judo guys that came in and annihilated in Jiu-Jitsu. So because of that, there was still like a lot of rivalry. There used to be these tournaments in the early 90s called submission wars. I think they were in Bakersfield, California, and you could wear a gi or not wear a gi. And it was jiu-jitsu guys, it was judo guys, it was wrestlers, it was catch wrestlers, sambo guys. It was a lot more of a free-for-all back then, and it was a lot more entertaining.
Much of life is being in the right place at the right time and having your ears open enough and being open-minded enough to do it. I knew a lot of guys who rejected the challenge. And the Gracie challenge, in some ways it was arrogant. But if you look at it, it is really what began this whole explosion. Because jiu-jitsu was not a flashy style. Like even now, most of the time, I would rather watch a football game, a basketball game. It's not an exciting thing, really, but to watch. Highlights are exciting, your friends in the match it is, but ultimately, it's kind of a boring sport as a spectator. And in the early days, I remember I was a purple belt. I was in the reserves at the time, and I was in Pensacola, Florida. And I was trying to recruit students because I was just dying. I was addicted. I wanted to roll. I would go to the judo club, and I'd beat all the judo guys. And they wouldn't think it was anything special. They just thought it was some weird judo thing, and they'd pound the mat and let me try again, but they wouldn't want to learn. And the philosophy I've always had is if a person, if they don't want to learn, I'm not going to show them. I'll compete against them, but if they don't ask me how it was done, why show them? I mean, as a general approach, I say you think street, you train the sport, and you practice the art. You practice the art because it's a practice. You can never master it. It's a continuing practice. You train in the sport, and that means I have to train my body as an athlete. My body is the vehicle of my art. And I think street, but I don't train street. When you train street, you almost devolve into a eye-gouging, throat grab, groin striking game. But I always think street. I've never left that. I always imagine, even in a match, I always imagine maybe I'm down 2 points, an advantage, whatever it is. I imagine right now, if I was on asphalt, would I be losing or winning? That's just how my mind is. And that actually enhances my sport game and keeps my art honest. Because what keeps the art honest is that growth of knowing that really the reason why I walked in the room is because I want to learn how to fight.